Salamun alaikum, dear brothers and sisters in Islam and humanity. I'm your host Omar, and with me is the steadfast, stalwart, fact checker, Abdullah. Welcome to the 12th episode of alhaq.com podcast. We are on a quest to peel back the layers of darknesses with the light of the Quran. Today's topic is about truth and deception. Brothers and sisters, imagine that you find an orchard, a garden with fresh fruits, ripe, delicious, fresh vegetables, etc. Then you have companies that take these fruits and vegetables, process them with 52 different ingredients. They kill anything of value and replace them with trans fat, processed sugar, high fructose, etc. After thoroughly researching the human taste preferences and pushing the limits of the different flavors, they dress it up in attractive packaging. They pour it into copious funding for ad campaigns. And finally, they put them on the supermarket shelves so that the average consumer will be drawn towards it. Compare the two: fresh, pure ingredients from God, nourishing, life giving, organic, biodegradable waste versus packaged in non biodegradable materials, devoid of life, nourishment, filled with harmful chemicals, but it pushes the limits of the human senses of taste and smell. It's a lower level. There is a reason why there are no advertisements for carrots, cucumbers, celery, and chickpeas. They don't need advertising. They are pure, beneficial, sent down by Allah, which the earth produces in abundance. I want you to think about the same analogy with religion. Allah sends down the pure message. Humans pick it up, process it through their hadith factories, tafsir, usul, fiqh, package it in the robes, dress it up in thobe, beard, and imama for us to consume. A religion for dummies. They challenged everything they were given 200 years after the fact. So the ones who were putting these things together, the ulama of usul, ulama of hadith, these people were allowed, they had the right to question what they received. When they came across a hadith that says, don't write anything down from me, they had the right to interpret, but we don't. Even questioning the veracity of their claim will land you with a stamp of kafir by their orthodoxy. Abdullah, why do you think that happens?
If you have truth, scrutiny is what's the word? Scrutiny is welcomed, and then when you have mistruth, you can't have scrutiny because it will destroy everything.
So why is it that they're so paranoid about discussing this, or they're so afraid, it seems, that they run? You ask them, come debate us or come discuss it, answer our questions. Suddenly, they're like, that's dangerous. Why do
So
you think they?
it's not the same level for everyone. For a lot of the lower level underlings, it's the danger of their world being rocked and everything they knew and built their life upon being what they different from what they think. And then for the bit higher levels, it's that plus a lot of them are making money or getting notoriety off these things. They'll lose all of that if what they think is actually not how it is.
Right. What has been your experience in that?
Can you be even more specific?
Have you ever dealt with any of the, let's say, the hadith believers? And when you try to talk to them about the pure, unadulterated guidance that Allah sends down in the Quran, how do they respond to you?
Yeah, it's like I said, there's different responses with different kind of groups of people. For the lower, like I said, for underlings, it's kind of just a state of how to describe it? It's like when you're describing to a kid that some fantastical things like aren't true or aren't the way they are. They're almost in a bit of a state of disbelief and shock, but also still are really holding on to what they're thinking and digging in even deeper. And then for a little bit more of the higher ups, that one time I had that discussion with Muslim Lantern on his stream, and I was pointing out some of the issues he was having with his logic. It wasn't like, oh shoot, maybe something. It was finding every trick in the book to try to use fallacies to try to discredit or just silence what I have to say. Because I think it really, something I really have to be honest, I don't know about is that I really do wonder how much of these people are genuinely believing in it and what they're preaching, or how much of them really do know a lot of this is a farce, but are just keeping up with the appearances in order to keep their status quo. That is something I can't answer. I really don't know. But when you have these discussions with these people, there is a difference. It's not like, oh brother, we can't be talking about this. There's an issue. Don't talk about this, and I'm going to cause issues for you. Thankfully, we're living in a place where they can't physically harm us or use the law against us. They would do that if that was on the table, but it's not. So instead, they just use verbal attacks, which we can handle. But that's the two differences of reaction. You get just uncomfortable, and then you get violent attitude. So
Right. We're honored today to be joined by a trailblazer in this space. We may not agree on everything, but respect is due for the slings and arrows they've had to endure. Our guest, Edip Yüksel, a prominent author, philosopher, and a brilliant inventor. Merhaba Edip.
Please. I have about 5 languages, therefore it will be too much time taken. Is Abdullah your son?
Yes,
yeah.
Abdullah's my son.
MashaAllah. How old are you, Abdullah?
I just turned 21 this Thursday.
That's great. And are you working or a student? What are you up to?
I'm working with my father's company.
MashaAllah, that's great. Well, I should know you more. Next time, I a little bit talk with your father, but not you. And it is wonderful to see father and son working together. In fact, I work together with 2 of my sons. It is a blessing. You're welcome.
Tamam
Uh,
Edip Bey.
yeah,
Abdullah and I,
go
along with
ahead.
our community, approach the Quran through strict philological and linguistic analysis. We bypass the secondary literature entirely. Because of that, our audience often hears the term Quran alone. So we often feature prominent figures and personalities in this space to learn about their background, their journey, and glean benefits from their experience. In that regard, I'm very interested in knowing about your past and what you would like to share with us today.
Since English is my fifth language, and recently I have been talking also in a lot of plenty Turkish, my
Ah,
accent is pretty heavy, and I hope that listeners will not have much difficulty to understand, to follow. First, let me just make a objection toward religion. I used to use the word religion like religion of Islam and for a long time. But about maybe how many years ago, about 15 years ago, I noticed that it is a really wrong word to describe peacemaking or
mm,
monotheism. The word religion, if you check it, it means really a set of dogmas, unquestioned, and usually led by clergymen. And religion, the Quran or messengers of God, in fact, they were against dogmas. They questioned all dogmas.
mm,
They invited people to reason, to question dogmas, to question assumptions, to not follow anything blindly, just the opposite of what the word religion implies. And say, know the truth, truth will set you free. It is a biblical verse. I forgot, it was John 3, I think in chapter 3 of John. And also the Quranic verse, one of many. Do not follow anything blindly, chapter 17, verse 36. Do not follow anything blindly. Your eyes, your vision, your hearing, your mind, your heart is responsible what you are following. Therefore, throughout centuries, we see when messengers of God came, their number one opponents, enemies, were the clergymen of religions. And what clergymen invite to people to believe their stories and holy lies in the name of God without question. Therefore, they want to bypass God's biggest blessing to humanity, which is from God. It is Ruh min Allah, the logical program that separates falsehood from truth. By bypassing logic, they invite people to be emotional and blind followers, and they can manipulate them, they can deceive them, they can exploit them, they can also turn them enemies to each other, and in many ways, basically control people. And therefore, my suggestion to you guys, instead of using the word religion, use like Islam. It is a lot of distortions made in Christianity, the same with so-called Muslims, and it is huge. The meaning of words change. If you don't mind, I want to first talk what is Iman, what is Islam according to the Quran. Iman means trust. Amin means a person who is trustworthy. And for God, there is an attribute of God. It is mispronounced. It is mu'min, it is said, one of the attributes of God. It is mu'min, in fact, or must be mu'min. God is the one who is trusted, not God trusts humans and stuff. It is ridiculous.
So do you believe that the harakat is misapplied?
Absolutely. And of course, the list, 99 attributes of God, that list is gathered by an ignorant person.
Right.
And it ignores about a dozen attributes of God in the Quran. It's not there. And also, there are certain attributes not in the Quran. That's fine, as long as it is a beautiful name, it is a universal adjective. However, among these attributes, Satan added a Satan's attribute, a name, horrible name, and people
A deceiver.
Deceiver. Candies, very delicious candies, and one them put a poison, looks like a candy. You are attracted to the candies, to the fruits, and meanwhile there is a poison you swallow. Mixed truth with falsehood that way throughout history. And one of the attribute there is dar, the one who harms. Absolutely, there is no such attribute of God. As a verb is used, but a qualified with a limiting. God harms those who are evil, but not as a general attribute, as a harmer, because they turn it to an attribute. No, there's no such an attribute in the Quran.
Can you say that Allah is the ultimate causer, and therefore anything that happens, He is the cause of it? And therefore, let's say you have the path of guidance and the path of misguidance. The choice is given to you to pick either one. But whichever one you pick, the causer is Allah.
Of course, when we say causation, it could be complex, some misunderstanding. Causation, there's a physical relationship, cause and effect. Of course, this is according to God's law and everything, all the atoms and subatomic particles to galaxies works according to God's law. And a gun explodes, the power of the ammunition and the way it goes, the trajectory, everything is according to God's laws. However, there is also in between intention and certain choice. If it is given to us, then causation includes our choices too, but doesn't influence. And that is a different topic, freedom of expression, or I say freedom of expression, no, freedom of choice is a different topic.
Right.
Let me come to that. Iman means trusting God. And Islam, it is in the Iman is individual. It is between a human being and God, creator, and between human being and himself. It is personal. Right. And therefore it is a theological, philosophical, spiritual issue. However, Islam is separate from that. Islam means peacemaking. Salam means peace. And they turn it to an Arabic name as if it is the title of a different shop competing with others. No, it is, God says in chapter 30, verse 30, that God created your nature based on peacemaking. In our God-given mind and heart consciousness, we have interest be peaceful, cooperative human being
Right.
rather than killing each other. There is that kind of tendency, but God gave us reasons so that we'll be peaceful. And peacemaking, Islam is social, is a relation with other human beings, and this has been the message of all messengers. It is the word deen means responsibility, not religion.
Mm.
Dain, it comes from the word dain, means debt.
That.
Mashallah, debt.
Mhm.
And deen, for example, Muhammad changed the name of Yathrib to Medina. In the
Mm.
Quran, you see this initial verse refers to the city as Yathrib, and later Al Medina. Al Medina means the city of responsibility, of civilization. Medina, Medaniya means civilization. And basically, it is individual responsibility to the people, to community, and community's responsibility to the individual, mutual responsibilities. Yawmuddin means the day of responsibilities are checked, questioned, whether you did your responsibility as you expected, as a decent human being, to be kind to fellow humans, to support them if you have means, be honest, correct, or whether you betrayed that, you became kafir, aggressor against them. And certain also terminology in the Quran, major key terminologies are also modeled. Again, Iman, individual, we can discuss this issue philosophical, theologically. We can differ. God gave us the choice that فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ.
Right.
And however, we cannot force each other our iman to others. God
Right.
says, let people to choose. But
Alhamdulillah.
Islam is mandatory, but that's very
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Islam means peacemaking must be the ultimate system, ultimate civilization in the world. All humans must be peacemaking, not aggressing each other, live equally in liberty, maybe separate jurisdictions, laws, but still support each other, not fight each
Right.
other.
So, Sheikh, let me just interrupt you
Don't
just for a
call me
minute.
Sheikh. I'm not old yet.
Good one. That's true. You're a young,
I am
young
mentally very young,
person.
spiritual also
That's
young.
true.
Therefore, I'm not
Bache.
accepting the old man. It's not a compliment in my
Right.
language.
So, brother, we will delve into these topics in just a minute, but I wanted to start off with a little bit about your personal background. We're really interested in how your journey took shape. Where did you start? What was your
Okay,
background?
go fast and
Yes,
interrupt me when I go too long. Just say,
sure,
please
sure.
make it shorter. Abdullah, how are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, we're just waking up really
Okay,
early.
good.
But with some of the things you're saying, I wanted to also comment when you're mentioning Islam and such about terminology of these things. I think in a spiritual sense, I very much agree with that. Islam, when it comes to what it really truly means for most people, yes, I think saying submission or that this is just submitting to God is more accurate. But I would disagree with you, and I would say that I would still call myself a Muslim because that is still closer to the original Arabic word, just like how we wouldn't call the Quran that what is read, we just call it the Quran because that is more similar to the Arabic reading.
Let me tell you, if Islam has two domains. One is Muslim, a peacemaker, when makes peace with God as a mu'min, peace, you make it peace with God, and you submit to God's law. It is one way. God doesn't submit you, you submit.
Mhm.
Therefore,
Of course.
in the word Islam, in the zone of Iman, in the category of Iman means submission to God. But in the category of society, which is Islam, and it means peacemaking through mutual responsibility, establishing peace. And
Mhm.
therefore, it has these two meanings. When you make peace with society, you have mutual relationship responsibility, it becomes deen. But when you have peace with God, it is your trust to God. It is one way you submit to God's law. And according to the Quran, every mu'min, everyone who trusts one God, a rational monotheist, I call it, is also a Muslim by very definition, cannot be other way around. Means a peacemaker in the society, not aggressor. Consider all other humans his or her brother, regardless of their religious ideas, their theology, and consider them as equal, wants to live in society in peace. But according to Quran, every Muslim, every peacemaker is not necessarily a mu'min. For example, chapter 49, someone claims to be mu'min. God says, no, you are not mu'min. You are only Muslim. In
Iman not.
Medina, the city of civilization, there were mu'mins who accepted Muhammad as prophet, as a messenger. They followed the Quran. There were also Christians, Jews, and mushriks. They didn't accept Muhammad's leadership. They were not mu'min in that regard, but they were mu'min Muslims, Christian Muslims, Jewish Muslims, and mushrik Muslims. But now it sounds very strange. No, Islam is a very secular word describing. But since every mu'min is Muslim, sometimes we see it confusion. But when you look at it through this Venn diagram, every mu'min is Muslim, but not necessarily every Muslim is mu'min, but some Muslims, of course, is mu'min. Then you will understand very well. Should I go back to my
Yes,
background?
please.
In 1957, when the space age started, I was born in a Kurdish family. My father was an orphan. He was basically left to my grandfather's madrasa. He was a very well-known religious leader. My town is well-known in Turkey, Norşin. And a lot of Naqshi Sheikh comes from there. Very powerful impact. And then my father, as an orphan, studies there for many years. And because of his acumen and brilliance, his dedication to learning, he pulls the attention of everyone, including my grandfather, who is a very well-to-do guy, very well-respected. When people have their major conflicts, instead of going to the government's court, they would come to our own his court. And he suggests to marry his daughter, and these nobles around and other sheikhs, religious clergymen, and other rich people, they get very kind of upset with that. How in the world you gave your daughter to this guy who is an orphan who has nothing? And then it is a real story, very well known. My father is well known in Turkey. And then my father becomes a prominent, a legend in that area, in the eastern part of Turkey. And of course, also, he doesn't like sheikhs. He doesn't like the Sufi kind of orders because they exploit people. And then he moves tariqa. He moves to Istanbul with us, and we went to Istanbul. And we had an extensive family. And then we lived, in fact, in poverty, though our home was the center of major public figures would visit our home. Member of Congress, ministers, the religious leaders. My father was a top clergyman at that time. He was not official, but all factions in Turkey, competing in factions, they would respect him. He became very famous regarding his knowledge of four sects, fiqh and Arabic. He was teaching, and he was well respected. Therefore, at my home, in a very young age, my father gave me confidence. Though he was a religious man, he has certain dogmas. Also, he had respect to sciences and interest in mathematics and logic. He had studied in madrasa, the logic, Aristotelian logic, and all other things.
Wow.
And therefore, in early age, he introduced us to math puzzles. When one of my favorite moments when my father would gather us and ask us questions about mathematics, about logic puzzles. We enjoyed that. And then at middle school, I started doing very interested in sciences. I went to parochial school. My father, Imam Hatip, the same school where Tayyip Erdogan, the Turkish leader right now, president, we were in the same school. In fact, he was a few years above me. I remember him from all our activities, and later after school we were together in the youth organization party. He was my close friend, but I rejected him later because of his immoral, unethical things. But anyway, in that school, we had all sorts of, we had science classes. We had that time Saturday also. We'd study Saturday too, from morning until late evening, long hours. Besides sciences, we had also aqaid, fiqh, usulul fiqh, many others, siyar, tafsir, and all those books, and Arabic, of course. And I, in the first years, it was Arabic and English, two languages. I already knew I was Kurdish. And then I learned Turkish while I was in elementary, third grade. And then here it is in middle school, I have to learn English and Arabic. And then later, last years of high school, 2 years, I also was required to learn Persian, therefore 5 languages.
Wow.
And each of them I had a use utility of them. But while middle school, I was very interested. My studies, I have been a student that always I questioned. I hated memorization. I hated memorization. And the irony, look at the irony. In all other classes, I would get high scores, but the Quran class, I would flunk every year. Every summer, my summer would mess up because I was required to memorize pages and pages. I hated memorization.
Right.
I wouldn't memorize physics formula. For example, quadratic formula that is ugly, x1, x2
Negative b plus
negative b minus square root inside of the end over 2a. But where this come from? And I was curious. I would go to the bottom of it and learn it step by step how to drive this. I studied geometry as a proof geometry. Oh, the of the square inside angle is 180. What does that mean? How it comes from? How can I prove it? All
complementary.
But I gave also hard times to teachers. Teachers were not happy with my questions, and sometimes they would feel they couldn't answer. Therefore, they were scared of me, honestly. And in my yearbook, in fact, it was popularized by Emine Şenlikoğlu, a Turkish author, a Sunni author, wrote a book against me. The stars also do fall, because I was a star of the Islamists. And it is a book about me. And he starts his book with that yearly, this book about high school, the last, what's called, the book that is put together by students, that yearbook. In that yearbook, someone says, one of my friends wrote that one, says, everything in Edip is extreme. He is scary, especially his IQ is very high, top. He is genius, but his common sense is not as much. And everyone is tired of his questioning everything. As a friend of him, I am already tired and that kind of things. And but they use it as a, here it is, Edip, even since childhood, he was questioning everything. He's crazy. He was using against me, but in fact, I think as a compliment. Anyway, in middle school, my father allocated one of the rooms of home. I said we lived in poverty because my father, though he was a very religious, dogmatic Sunni scholar, he was an honest person, very brave and honest person. He didn't get money. He could be very rich because even people coming to home, they were very rich people, but he never accepted money. I remember he rejected money offer from Saudi Arabia. They wanted to purchase Muslim scholars and leaders in Turkey just 1 year after Iranian Revolution, because Iranian Revolution got a lot of empathy and sympathy from Sunnis. First time in history it happened. When Iranian Revolution happened, you see Sunnis who are against, they suddenly, because he had turban and beard usually, they like these things. Even Ikhwan Muslimin, everyone admired the Khomeini, they praised, they defended. And of course, it was against American interest, this kind of things, because it would turn anti-American. Therefore, they used Saudi Arabia to bribe Muslim scholars and leaders. And I know in person, I was at home, I would serve coffee when they come and join in their debate discussions. And from Saudi Arabia, from Rabitatul Alam al-Islami, two people came in Arabic. They told my father, King has greetings to you. I doubt they were lying. King has no clue about what's going on in the world. But anyway, they say, we appreciate your work. We want to support you. We have a gift, and also we want to have a salary. My father, without blink of eye, he rejected. He said, I don't need it. But we were really very difficult. I remember in our breakfast, we were children counting olives, and only once a week we were able to have meat in our food. And despite that, it was something I admire. But what he did good for me, one is when people come, very prominent people come to our home, I was as a child, as a middle schooler, I would engage in the debate. I enter into political and religious debates. I would discuss. Usually, I would side with my father. I was basically his admirer. And my father wouldn't stop me because in Turkey, it would be considered as big disrespect. A child who is a middle schooler enter the conversation, in fact, political and religious conversation of two prominent people. No one would accept it, but my father enjoyed it, gave me confidence. This is very important. Give confidence to your child. I love it the way you are here with your son. Beautiful. That should be. And the other thing I said, involving me and my brothers and sisters with the mathematics and puzzles and stuff. And then what he did, he wanted me to be able to do my scientific tests and investigation in one room. One of the bedroom, it was for me and my brother. We were doing tests. There, with virtually no help, no mentor, no resources, I was able to make motor generator. Basically, I would carve from wood the rotor of the motor and make my own magnet, find a metal and bend it, roll around it, cable, put it in plug. The fuse would go off, but I would get my magnet. And then my generator, and I was that time searching for perpetual motion machine. But thank God there was no educated person at that time to stop me. Oh, this is impossible because there is friction.
Right.
There is an angel and devil called friction because it can work both ways, correct?
Right.
As a brake is an angel, correct? But sometimes when you want to go, it could be major problem. Anyway.
While you're on that, I've actually had interest in this topic about perpetual motion. And the only pushback that I've heard is about the core of the Earth being a perpetual source of energy, that there is some critical mass that you can build of energy that will perpetually last. Is that, and have you ever heard that argument about the sun, the core of the Earth?
The core of the Earth is, of course, it is insulated because of the crust of the Earth, magma, a very kind of molten iron, let's say. And it takes very long time for that to cool down. It's not perpetual, but have a long time because incredible insulation and a lot of mass, a lot of heat. It takes millions and billions, maybe years to die. And the Earth one day will die. The core will basically get cold and there won't be any activity in the surface of the Earth, which is really those activities supports the ocean life and other things. Therefore, it is not, but it is very close to perfect, not perfect efficiency. It is there. It is a long time. But perpetual motion machine is impossible because of the laws that God put, conservation of energy. And the friction uses through heat. And anyway, but over there, let me tell you one of my things that while I was a kid, my father, me and my younger brother, Metin, he was 2 years younger than me. At age 21, he was killed by Turkish national political group. In fact, his murder was associated with international plans because he was going to become a leader in Turkey instead of Tayyip Erdogan. There are a lot of authors wrote about it, very famous authors about this.
What was his name?
Metin Yüksel, you can check it. He's a legendary leader. He was at 17 years old. He was the leader of 1 million member youth organization. Later, after he was killed, I became the leader. That time, Tayyip Erdogan, no one would care about him. He was much faded person. My brother didn't like him. And he would become leader, but he was also pro-Iranian, very revolutionist, did not have any interest with money or ostentatious thing. In fact, his organization was a torn, basically trash. He got it just from side of the street. It was torn. He used it. He has very strong allergy against those who use politics and religion to make wealth.
So he wasn't with the Young Turks, huh?
No. He was at that time. There were three groups: communists and nationalists, Turkish nationalists, racists, and then Islamists. He was the Islamist leader, and then he was killed by very hideous stuff. The connection shows that it was an American interference. They want to eliminate him to open path to Erdogan. That is so-called conspiracy theory. Initially, I rejected as a conspiracy, but later I found out the people who were in that, who supported Erdogan after him, and their relationship, incredible. You cannot believe it.
You're getting
It is
into
another story.
Dangerous territory.
We discussed this one on with major media here. Initially, I rejected. I said this is too far-fetched. But later, I learned about major figures. I never thought they would have any connection. I found that they are connected to Saudi Arabia and Britain, and then everything started making much more sense. Anyway, together with my brother, we would go to movies at young age. I'm talking about 13, 14 years old. Western movies, Clint Eastwood, good, bad, and ugly, correct? And also,
Westerns.
we had two favorite movies. One is Western movies. The other was there was a series of movies by Italian comics. They were so funny, my gosh. Ciccio Ingrassia. One is short, the other tall guy. Basically, this kind of harmless movie. But my father was suspicious of movies that he feared that will get corrupted, which is he's not wrong.
True.
It is right, not true. You are right. But that time, movies was not that harmful, honestly. Anyway, but he would penalize me. My two younger brothers, they had different coalition. Me and Metin were 2 years apart. We were group. And then the other two younger brothers, they were together. And they would snitch on us. And then my father would penalize me, would not allow me to go home until midnight. My mother would open the door, and 4 hours on the stairs. It would be long, torturous time. Therefore, I told my younger brother, I said, that's it. We have to make a movie projection machine in our
No
lab.
way.
My father's office is just adjacent. His office, when I say he has one chair, and his books that time, they were in boxes. He didn't have even a decent library. Big wooden boxes on top of each other. In order to get one book, he had to do a lot of exercise, put down one of the box. And so I still remember, it's so strange. And then I said, we have to make it. And the only source of information I had was my physics book. And it has about 1 page or half page information about how a movie projection machine works. And the book was not first quality paper, newspaper paper, that lowest quality. And it was not colorful like today. You don't appreciate colorful with it on best quality paper. And it was black and white, a figure of it, a little bit. I got a gist of it. I knew the principle that minimum about 18, let's say, frame must pass in front of in a second, must pass in front of the land light. And also a fraction of second, each frame must stop in front of it so that it will not be run on lines. That frame it will be. And I found that that's difficult to make it. I made it again, carve it from wood, certain teeth, 1, 2 teeth is broken so that when that gear rotate, when it comes the broken one, will stop and go. I remember haggling, the most difficult part is called spooling. And I was able to do it. Finally, trial and error, was able to, while rotating the thing, that it would stop and go very fast. And then here comes, we made the machine, no really much metal, many of the things from wood and stuff. And then we needed to find a reel, film.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Where can I find it? My younger brother, I don't know. Honestly, maybe he had some connection with one of the organization in that age.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to find a reel from any movie, doesn't matter.
You can get propaganda films very easily.
Not full. It was a movie. Basically, I put around the thing, and then I started manually moving, projecting on the wall. When we saw it, it was no sound. When we saw it, it is moving. There are people, not very good quality, but on our wall moving. Basically, that time it was incredible satisfaction. We basically, how do you say, fought against this movie prohibition in our own room next to my father. We basically defied it. It was a very act of defiance. And then I became, how do you say, very interested in mechanical engineering. I wanted to become mechanical engineer, partially due to Necmettin Erbakan, our leader that time. Before Erdogan was basically, he was in his youth organization, Necmettin Erbakan, National Salvation Party. And then he was a mechanical engineer, very prominent one. And therefore, I picked the mechanical engineering, Middle East Technical University as my first choice. There was university exam, national standardized. 500,000, among 500,000 students, I became number 7, top 7. I entered there. I got grants. One semester I studied. After that, I dropped out. The reason is my father put me in a dormitory in Ankara. I wanted to a little bit away from my father because I was a perfect nerd. From my home, I would go to this middle school, high school, from A to B without derogation. Always straight line, like Immanuel Kant, they say. They would know from his location in town, the time of the day they would know. He was like a clock. I was like it, no deviation. Some of my friends in higher classes, they would go to cafes, they would go to cinemas. I would go to cinema in weekend, not kind of days, and my father would penalize, but that's all my deviation. But I was a perfect nerd. Therefore, I wanted to little bit enjoy independence. Therefore, I picked Ankara Middle East Technical University as my first choice. But my father put me in a dormitory controlled by the political party, religious political party, National Salvation Party, Milli Gençlik Yurdu in Ankara. 300 students in that dormitory, basically about 6-7 stories. In each there are rooms, basically small.
So it was like madrasa training.
Not madrasa training, they were college students. But
they were college students.
Yeah, college students. I was college student. But over there, weekly they would be gathering, political gathering in a big salon under it, conferences, panels, speeches, members of political things. And over there, I discovered social and political life. My gosh, it was so delicious. I forgot about my engineering. I'm the top engineer in the world. In fact, Beltways, I conceived that time at that age, and how many years? 40 years later,
a lifelong dream.
I was able. It was my first patent, but now I have many different areas. I will come to that. But at that time, I was very inventive. But politics attracted me, and social life. I like to talk and raise my hands, and soon they basically suggested me as a candidate for the leader of the student representative of this dormitory, 300 students. I had no clue. I had no interest. But who is the president? He left. He graduated. They were looking for another one. I see people, the students in the dormitory, they indicate them, they say, Edip should be. And then suddenly I found myself as a president, accidental president of this. And then I got involved, go to the center, headquarters of the youth organization. and write pamphlets and then organize students to distribute them, sometimes hide and seek with police, graffitis on the wall. That time was territorial war between these
Wow.
three groups. And sometimes many would get killed. They were killing each other. We were sometimes the more peaceful in between the two groups. I have a lot of interesting experience. Many times my life, I was targeted by bullets, by many other things, and
Wow.
it is a long story. And then, of course, I forgot about the thing, and then later became president of this youth organization after my brother was killed, and end
Brother
up
was
in
killed?
prison. My brother was killed,
You
21
just
years
like
old.
passed that on like a casual
Yeah,
switch.
yeah, yeah.
What
It's the
happened?
thing. He was in. He was a very young leader, very loved, charismatic, beautiful young man. At age 21, he was coming out of Friday prayer from Fatih Mosque, and then
Wow.
tripping among his old friends. He didn't have gun on him, and they stopped him. He says, "I don't have gun. Let's talk. What do you want?" And he had nothing to do with them. There was some conflict the day before. I was involved. I tried to kind of create between this group and my group. And basically, they basically targeted him. They just point blank, they killed him in front of hundreds of people. And
Wow.
these people, one of the leader of this gang, right now, he is a top media guy of Tayyip Erdogan. It's very interesting. There are many
Wow.
interesting connections. Anyway, and then what I was telling you, goodness sake. And then I became the leader of the organization, and then writing articles on magazines. My two uncles that time, I didn't tell you, that time in member of Congress. My mother's side is also very well known politically. My father in religious establishment is very kind of thing. Therefore, my mother's side is well known in Turkey, very prominent. Therefore, I was just natural leader. And then in the night of the military coup, 1980, 12 September, I was arrested on the street after just 1 week after World Assembly of Muslim Youth Conference, WAMI conference in Turkey, the Turkish Ministry of Youth and Saudi Arabia together, they organized from 42 countries, youth brought together, and I met Ahmed Didat there. Have you known Ahmed Didat?
Of course, yeah.
Al-Qardawi there. I have a picture with Ahmed Didat back of my book. I don't
Really?
know. Of course.
Yusuf al-Qardawi.
As Qardawi, I can tell you is another story. I dislike this guy. He has no life in him. He was a moruk, cranky old man. But
Right.
Ahmed Didat was agile,
Cool.
fun, humorous, articulate, smart guy. I heard number 19 from Ahmed Didat in that
Wow.
1980, summer 1980 in Çanakkale. Let me show you the picture.
Yeah, yeah.
So just to recap, he was a part of which of the three factions? The Islamic, Communist, or Nationalist? Which one of
The
those?
Islamic. The Islamic. It's very interesting to learn about all of these things. It's almost like a part of that
Mhm, yeah.
you don't textbooks. You learn from the people directly. Wow.
This is the greatest miracle in
Buyuk
1985. This
Muzici.
was best-selling book. This was 12th edition, but it goes to 30 edition stuff. And
Buyuk
then this
is
was
big.
me and Ahmed Didat.
Oh, wow. So you helped him author that, huh?
Okay. Yeah, this is code of the Quran. Half of it translation. The other half my basically scientific verses of the Quran.
Wow, that's amazing. Have you ever had a chance to meet with Faithullah Gulen?
Anyway, and
Have you
then
ever had a chance to meet with Faithullah Gulen?
of course, Fethullah Gulen met him. Of course, he was, in fact, very
He's in
respectful to my
Pennsylvania, right?
father. He considered my father as his teacher.
Oh,
He has a letter to my father, but I never knew him. And in fact, I have 9 videos very critical of him when he was very prominent in Turkey. I
really?
warned people like him. I said he's a charlatan, and he was. In one side is those deviants of lone people. They are deviant. They are kind of zindiq, or they are. And in the same statement, he said, the Quran needs hadith than hadith needs the Quran.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. This and the Hafaz hadith Quran. You say obey. You mean that God needs the messenger for his to explain, to understand.
Right.
This is crazy. And
Craziness.
but he was a lot of story. He was deceptive. He was a big liar, and he fooled many good people in Turkey. The very brilliant generation. He turned them basically, unfortunately, blind followers. Here is tell you how to distinguish honest person from dishonest person, especially clergymen or politician. They have invitation, public message. They have a certain cause. If they are giving lectures in monologues from top down and everyone listens to them, they don't debate. They are 100% liars. They are hypocrites. They are liars.
Right.
Look at the religious clergymen. They send majority of people to hell. They tell all the stories about God, but you see, they talk to a congregation that already primed, already brain polluted, already hypnotized, and they just, their mouth and they listen. That's it. No one is challenging them. No one is cross-examining them. And they shun the public. This is the difference between the messengers, prophets, and philosophers, and corrupt clergymen, charlatans, dictators. They shun, they don't, because debating face to face, your charisma is crossed, is destroyed, because you create charisma in darkness among blind followers. They start kind of praising you. Word, whatever you say, every stupid word is praised. No one is challenged.
Right.
Therefore, you
There's
gather
a term
a
for
lot.
that we have. It's called an echo chamber.
Yes, exactly. Listen, they talk about Muhammad or Jesus following and stuff. They kind of put, or you remember?
That's right. Yeah.
These many
Tracing the
times we
footsteps.
did this
That's
with
right.
these many fingers, food and
Yeah.
beard and turbans and stuff.
Right.
All these has nothing to do with the
The
messenger.
order in which he cut his fingernails.
Exactly. This
And
is
the gaps in
Ghazali's
his
book.
teeth.
All this too, even how to wash your, as the messengers came to teach people potty training, you know. Bukhari, the is Babu Tahara, is there are many verses how to clean your buttock with what, and how to turn in the bathroom to which direction, what to do, which foot to put in, which foot to come out. All these things has nothing to do with not a single debate, discussion in the Quran. There are about 332 minimum conversation, debate example is given in the Quran of all messengers. Not a single time on these frivolous, stupid things. But this is their. But imagine, they focus on this, they call it Sunnah, which is another. When they say Quran and Sunnah, you know that person knew about the Quran. Because the Sunnah in the Quran means Sunnatullah, God's Sunnah. Instead of they defy God, they say, no, not God's Sunnah, Sunnah Muhammad. And they made up this one. And then you see, they focus on these frivolous, stupid details, but they ignore the most common, let's quote Sunnah, their behavior, their practice. The most common is debating. We say what is among the messenger? One is one God, honest people. They were pro-justice, pro-peace, pro-liberty, and also they were debating on the streets, in the bazaars, in the mansions. Look at them. All messengers, they were debating with their opponents, face to face. But look at these clergymen, from Pope, the religious affairs, to these mullahs, to these big alims. Did they debate with atheists or monotheists like us? No, they escape like this because they know they have falsehood, they cannot defend it, and they don't want to be falsified. They want a captive audience in their own echo chapter, basically in darkness. In darkness, mushrooms, poisonous.
That's true.
And therefore, we need to shed light. They invite them to debate, they are escaping. They come up with many stupid excuses not to debate. They
Oh
say,
yeah.
well, you are the goodness sakes, you say you follow prophets Muhammad and others. He was debating with the diverted people, with the opposing people,
Yeah.
with those people who exactly their opponents. Here it is, I'm your opponent.
Yeah.
Why you are anyway?
Just a interesting point on that, is that when I used to be a Sunni, I used to uh, start about the Shia, so at the Sunni ulama to debate them. I said, why don't we publicly debate and settle this matter? And so one of the excuses is, brother, this has been going on for 1400 years. Do you think you're going to come in here and settle it today? You know,
Why you
another one was,
talking? Why you are preaching to people?
yeah. So another one was that. There are only 85%. The Prophet said that, the Ummah will be united on misguidance. So therefore, we're the majority, therefore, we're right. Because, they're referring. And then what was surprising is that the Shia actually have a lot of points that they can have a punch up with the Sunnis, but they don't want to debate. And I was shocked. I said, all your majalis is like trash the Sunnah time. And then when I'm calling you to debate them face to face, you're saying, no, our ulama asked us not to debate because if we debate them in public, they post it on YouTube, then somebody in Parachinar, a whole bunch of Shia family gets murdered because of these people are oppressing us, So like there's a whole list of excuses and none of them are actually valid excuses. I told them, look, if the Parachinar is going to get killed, it's going to be because of all the extreme people among the Shia that are calling Aisha, like Abu Bakr and trashing Omar and all this stuff in public. So if anybody's going to get killed, it's going to be because of them. Why don't you demonstrate a nice way to debate? So why don't akhlaq, ahsan, or no answers? It's like invalid arguments.
Let me finish my life story.
Yes, please, please.
I ended up in prison for 6 years. I was penalized for two of my articles promoting Islamic revolution in Turkey against Turkish secularism in Turkey was very aggressive,
Yeah.
anti-religious, very stupid, because religion is like trinitroglycerine, liquid trinitroglycerine, handle with
TNT.
care. Handle
Yeah.
TNT, handle with, cannot go too close and squeeze it and do it. No, and don't shake it, don't throw it. Just stay with a good distance, healthy distance. Respect some of the things, mean their choices, as long as they don't hurt children and other people. Let them do whatever. You disagree with them, I disagree with many things they do, but of course, like headscarf. Initially, I was the first one. I declared that headscarf is not in the Quran. As a former Islamist, as a youth leader, as a future leader of the Islamist movement in Turkey, it was the biggest disappointment they had. My gosh, how can you say that? If I God is not one and Muhammad, they wouldn't be much kind of this one, a headscarf. That was the major thing in Turkey that time. And then I said, well, the Quran says khumur. Khumur means cover. And it doesn't limit it, specify it with head cover. It doesn't say even cover your head. It says cover your chest with cover. That's it. Well, it could be head cover. I'm not against. Someone wants to wear it, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then, but the Turkish that time military and stuff establishment, they were very antagonistic. Therefore,
so at the CHP was in power or no? The Cumhuriyet Party.
Cumhuriyet Party, even the so-called conservative parties, and even conservative right party banned it, not Cumhuriyet Party. Cumhuriyet Party didn't have really much in power, only a short, they were also banning it, but didn't come in power most of the time in Turkish things after Atatürk, after the first, until 1950, but after 1950, more than 95% is basically right-wing conservative religious parties. But even they were banning. Yeah. Anyway, I was in prison for 2 articles. But before that, I also ended up in Iran. Did I tell you I visited Iran after revolution secretly? Yeah. Before the WAMI, I told you from 42 countries youth. I met Ahmed Didat and all other Al-Qardawi and prominent Ikhwani Muslimin leader.
Right.
But before that, just 1 month before that, I was in Iran. Secretly, I was invited by the Revolutionary Guards. And I secretly entered the south border of Turkey so that the government, if knew it, I would be in big trouble.
Oh, wow.
And before the first prison, my prison I started after the conference. All happened in the summer of 1980. I was invited to Iran. I met the head of Pastaran, Abu Sharif, the first leader of Pastaran, the Revolutionary Guard. He had beard and he had also hat. And two ministers, Minister of Irshad, another one. They wanted me to take Khomeini. Khomeini that time was in another small city. And I said, no, I have here serious business. I want to take it. It will be a kind of a ritual, ceremony. And I stayed in Tehran about 2 weeks, top guest. I even prayed behind Khamenei. I was in the first row behind Khamenei in university that time. There was still holding Friday prayers.
Did you fold your hands like this, or you put your hand on the side?
I don't remember. That time, even for holding hands, when I was even Sunni, I didn't pay attention to those. I was not a strict follower of Hadith. I knew I was saying, yes, Quran and Hadith, but always somehow intuitively, I knew there is problem in Hadith. In my books, I always quoted the Quran, almost non-Hadith. Even that time. And I was also peacemaker, but I was saying Sunni, I was respecting all the Sunni stuff. And that time, I was I secretly left there, and I had very interesting experience there, many experiences. One of them I tell you, it is very telling. One day I told my handlers that hosted me there, they had ties with top. And I said, leave me alone. I want to one day walk around Tehran on my own. I had a working knowledge of Persian. I could handle it. And then I started walking in Tehran. I don't know whether they were following me from far or not. But in Bazaar, I drink. That time was Ramadan, hot summer Ramadan. It was, I think, June, July. And then I got drink. I forgot that it is Ramadan. No, I knew that I was not fasting because I was traveling and it was hot, but I would respect people not drink in the street. But I was drinking and walking on the street, my water, and then I heard a noise behind me, a sound, and the level is increased. I didn't know there's anything to do with me. And later when it became louder, I looked behind, I found out the merchant is yelling at me, saying Rouzeh is a kind of fasting, and then in a very short time he grabbed a button, and another merchant start running behind me, trying to beat me, and then I ran. It's incredible, how much I came to this country to import the revolution to Turkey, and here
within such a short time.
Yeah, I meet the people there, the leaders of revolution. Literally. And here it is, I am alone, and two merchants, they are chasing me like a stray dog in Tehran street because of this. It is but since I had cognitive dissonance, I didn't reflect on it. What kind of society is this? That kind of, how do you say, violent, imposing their whatever religion they have on other people with stick. They want to just beat me because of this. But of course, for a moment, like the Quran says, like lightning, in a way, thunderstorm and lightning. When there's lightning come, they see it.
That's right.
But
and
then
walk for a while, and then
when you are in religion or very political, dogmatic cult, you have cognitive dissonance. For a moment, you may see it like lightning, but then you go into your darkness. Anyway, then after prison, I came out. I found out that I was banned from continuing my higher education. And then I became best-selling author in Turkey. I didn't need to go to education. I could study. I could do research on my own. And then I have long story of beautiful experience in military service, 18-month mandatory, initially as a dangerous soldier, and later I became the most prestigious in that regiment thing because of two invention I did. It was incredible. It's a long story. Another time I can tell. And then after that, at age 29, I was in military service in Samsun in the city of 19. It's called City of 19. And I knew it. I would end up there before. You have no idea. Before even meeting Ahmed Deedat in 1980, first time hearing Miracle 19 in that conference, I had a group, I named it 19, Victory 19, without any clue about the Quran, about Basmala. I established my own subgroup in that big organization, about 50, 60 students. I was indoctrinate them around the Fatih Mosque. I have space for them. I call them 19, Victory 19, Fatih 19, FT 19. I had no clue that 19 is mentioned even in the Quran or in this context. And later I learned. And then this one, I forgot even. Anyway, I was banned at university, and then in city of Samsun, I started Samsun, means city of 19, because Atatürk started independence war in 19 May 1919. Atatürk's life is incredible 19s.
It's filled with 19. He was born in
1881.
in
1881, 19 times. 19 years later, go to the
military academy.
His career, military academy, 19 May 1919. 19 people, he's the 19th military, goes to Samsun, and then he become the head of the kind of colonel of, I don't know the military name, 57, 19th big military, it is called Tümen, 19th, and 38, 57, all these military things, and then he dies.
Even the Turkish War of Independence, May 19, 1919.
It is, in 1938 he dies. It is 19 times 102 and 57 years. His name, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, 19 letters. There are many, many more. I first published in 1985 in my book, Interesting Questions. I did.
Is Atatürk his real name, or is that a title? Like
it is a title given to him. But soon after Atatürk's death, in 22 November, he died at November 10, his 1938, but he done in 19th of November, and then the music was Chopin's 19th symphony.
Oh, wow.
They had no idea about this. And later, 3 days later, in 22nd November, there is an article published, title 19. After his death, Vala Nureddin, the name of the guy, to have so many 19s. They cannot explain it. But
so are you a Kemalist? Are you a supporter of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk?
What?
Are you a supporter of Kemal Atatürk?
I think that he was sent in terms of to end. He was a deist, or he believed in Quran. It's not clear, because he also wanted Quran to be translated. There are certain things shows that he believed.
And people went against him for translating.
They later made up, but he was mostly he did ended the Khalifa, which is satanic sultanate, and he gave women right to vote, and many other positive stuff. Of course, he has some errors, some wrong things he did. But as a human in Islamic history, I look at it, I think he ended a chapter in the name of God. Goodness sake, imagine Fatih Sultan Mehmed, they adored the so-called Islamists. Fatih Sultan Mehmed, they made up hadith, fabricated a hadith praising him, the one who will be conquering Constantinople. And this guy was horrible, a psychopath. He killed his 2-year-old brother because he will grow up, he may take the throne from me. And he got fatwa from his Sheikhul Shaitan. They call Sheikhul Islam, I call Sheikhul Shaitan. He says, for the sake of so that there will not be conflict, for the unity of the people, you can kill your brother. And Ottoman sultans, they killed many of brothers and sometimes children, and even father. Yavuz Sultan Selim killed his father and brother, who invaded Egypt, who got so-called Khalifa by force. And they praise these guys. Guys has nothing to do with Islam, with peacemaking. They were aggressors. They were attacking countries, plundering them, and taking their kids as slaves. Devshirme, and them into soldiers. The children of people they invaded from Europe, they would take them. They make soldiers to invade other countries. All they did, nothing. Anyway, over there, I started communicating with Dr. Rashad Khalifa, which I had come to know through Ahmed Didat. I had translated Ahmed Didat's work. I communicated with Ahmed Didat, but never get in touch with Dr. Rashad Khalifa, the real original discoverer of 19. Just Ahmed Didat, package it and distribute it to the world.
So Ahmed Didat introduced you to Rashad Khalifa?
To 19, yeah. His book, Quran, The Ultimate Miracle, it was best-selling in the world that time. He beautifully, in fact, this book still, I have the English one. Later, he sees the publication of it when Rashad Khalifa criticized Hadith and Sunnah and few other things. And therefore, but I got Rashad Khalifa in the beginning. He thanks Rashad Khalifa for his work, but he is very good with the composition, the way he explains it, he tells. And then I decided to communicate with Dr. Khalifa while I was in the city of 19. Oh my gosh, I expected him to be like my father, a kind of Sunni scholar. Because of his research, I never expected. Oh my gosh, his response to me didn't make sense. What is he saying? Does he believe in Hadith or not? And then I learned that he doesn't believe in Hadith. I said, you are a heretic, you are a blasphemy, you are murtad. All these things I wrote to him. And then I would write, he would send me a few verses of the Quran. He had a very beautiful economic way of responding me, let me tell you. He would get my letter, and then it was snail letter in 1986. And then he would put copy in machine. He would reduce the size of my letter, create bigger margin, and on the margin with pen, he would basically arrow respond on the margin verses of the Quran. Beautiful, I like it. And then
very clever.
Very clever, very fast. And I would see my letter, he responds, and he would write few verses, underline some words. Oh my gosh, as if I discovered new. This word I thought means this, but he cites another verse together with other verses. The meaning of that word cannot be the way I learned. It's like X. You don't know the X, but let's say X squared. There are X, Y. And you need two formulas to find the value of X, Y. With one formula, you won't be able to find what is the value of X and Y. There are two unknown.
That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, by providing several verses, it narrows the set. Let's say you put X, and this verse uses X, this verse in different context. Oh, the zone of the semantics become much narrower, you understand. And the same way I studied the Quran, okay, narrow down, eliminate some of our possibilities. And then it was, my gosh, I was sending him a bunch of hadiths. He would send me the verses of the Quran. I could read between the lines. He didn't need to explain to me, just verse, underline that one, put, oh my gosh. It was like this experience. I was like a magician through my snakes, and his staff would swallow those snakes like Moses. He was throwing the Quran would basically destroy my snakes, the hadith. At one point, I was entirely devastated. It was very difficult for me to come to a conclusion that the religion that I devoted myself to, I end up with prison because of this religion. I lost my brother because of the religion. All my family and career is within this religion. And here it is. How can it be wrong? And then he said, did you have Quran, Hadith, and Islam? I discussed these issues. I said, no. He sent it to me. It was the ugliest cover. I have it here. The ugliest cover book ever you can imagine. The color is the worst kind of brownish, and the font, but influential book. I read it in one night. It's very simple, basically compares verses with hadith, but in a way that, my gosh, I never knew. And then when I studied this book, basically, it's all verses of the Quran, nothing. 1st of July, 1986, it was my Laylatul Qadr. That night, the whole Quran revealed to me. Until then, I thought I knew the Quran. Absolutely, I missed the main message of the Quran: monotheism, God is enough, and all many other things. I was basically confused. My religion was Quran plus no number of hadith books, fiqh books, siyar books. The number is not known. Inside them, there are an unknown number of hadiths. They are graded in 31 categories, from maudu, made up, supposed, and then to all the way mutawatir, but in between there are 29 more categories.
Classifications, yeah.
Yeah. You know, like and so many hadith, and they also they don't agree about this classification. Imagine it is classification, gradation of not ice cream. You know, there are 31 flavors of, but this is 31 classification of lies in the name of God and Prophet Muhammad. And therefore, it was destroyed that. And that night, God is enough. It is Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr is about, for everyone, there is a Laylatul Qadr, the night that you understand, you got the message that changed your paradigm. And for Prophet Muhammad, the night that Quran came, that God saved him from idol worship to monotheism. You remember?
Yes.
And then he didn't know what is the book, what is Iman, but God guides you. The same Muhammad and others, each they have night of power which equals to their life, more important than life, that night. And then I got that one in 1st of July 1986. And then, of course, here it is. I have a dilemma. I am popular author after things, and they expect me to go to book fairs or invite me to talks. And I have the longest line in book fairs that time. And then here it is. I'm in dilemma. Continue promoting something that I know made up by clergymen, has nothing to do with God, all lies made up in the name of Prophet Muhammad, insults, full of insults, or should I reject it? Well, one, be hypocrite, but continue become a prominent person, have all the luxuries in life, and be a hero, which I was considered as a hero, and or reject it and become a heretic, a murtad, and lose everything, and even risk my life. I wrote it behind of my book. Let me bring that one too and finish it.
Okay. So Abdullah, regardless of which position whether, where we fall in the spectrum of agreement, you got to give people credit for the sacrifices that they make.
100%. I know that majority of the dawah that exist out there have not gone through what this guy's gone, but they wear their dawah that they've spread like a badge of
feather in their cap
on the same level.
Yeah.
This was one of my best-selling, interesting questions. The questions of my readers that did survey first time in Turkey, maybe in the world. Behind of my popular book, I put a survey in the end of this book. This was, I said, send me your questions on forum.
Wow.
And then at the end, write the questions that you discuss among yourself. And I received thousands of them. Now I know my reader, mostly university students. I know what are their questions, what they mostly discuss. And then I wrote this book, and some of the questions I planted myself. And not this one.
Questions part 2.
This is this is 2. This is number 1. And in number 1, I was a Sunni, but a very kind of smart Sunni. The kind of the most rational a Sunni is that one. But after that, when I rejected, here it is, interesting question 2, and this is it. And if you read this one in Turkish, I have to write this one. I know that I will be excommunicated. I will be risking my life. And exactly this happened. After this one, they pressured my father to write publicly me. And it took my father a while to write, because he didn't want to really target me. He loved me very much, but he was very worried. He wanted me to change back. and they wanted to give me time, but they pressured him. They went home all the time. They say, here is this book is corrupt in the U. Father wrote 2 articles in a very popular book, not book, magazine, I'm sorry. Later it became book. And then he basically, horrible arguments, very smart guy, but over there he makes an argument based on nonsense. Even he was defending stoning to death, even the abrogation of that, all these. I wrote a response to him. The magazine did not publish it. The editor of that magazine, Girişim, Mehmet Metiner, he became Erdogan's top guy. He was member of Congress for decades in AKP, Adalet Party. Yeah, and in fact, he wrote also and then in that biography, he also mentions me and Erdogan that I was leading. Erdogan only once got detained because he followed one of my activism, one of my events, public events. Anyway, and then my father wrote articles, and then I responded. Another magazine published it. It was powerful answer, but that magazine was threatened. They couldn't publish any more other, and my books were collected from bookstores. They were threatened by people who were my followers, who were my admirers. They turned against me, the gangs, my Islamist, basically youth organization. And then bookstores, the publishing houses, they published a book. They were very scared. And then I put together some of, they started writing articles against me, authors and stuff. And I was in headline of the newspapers, magazine, all these in my life story. I have the archives, the headlines of the newspapers as a Murtad. Edip became Murtad. His father rejected him. In fact, my father deliberately did not use the word Murtad in his criticism of me. He knew that Murtad is a code word, means you can kill him.
You can kill him.
Duped is kind of by Rashad. He was accused of Khalifa. He was depicting me as a victim because of love. But these people, they put this word in my father's mouth. Everywhere they say Edip was declared Murtad by his own father, which is a lie. But anyway, then I couldn't publish. But what I did, I put together some of major articles. I responded them. I placed them, quoted them exactly from beginning until end without moving out anything. But they wouldn't even quote from me a decent paragraph when they wrote against me. They would distort. They wouldn't really share what is my idea. What I did, my father's article, my response. Another prominent author's article against me or my views, my response. In a book, it is there. I don't want to come back in. It is second means dangerous articles. And then I established my own publishing house that time. Again, I am in deep trouble. I am hiding myself in my friend's home behind a fake wall, because for me on the streets, when they see me, they were trying to beat me, fight and stuff. Therefore, I could get killed. But I still pursued this one. I established my own publishing house. I published this book, and they stole it from printing house. I didn't publish it. I'm sorry. Printed from printing house, they stole it. It became news in Turkey. In archives, you can see it. And they stole it, 5,000 edition. And then I had some more money in my pocket. And then I went to another district in Istanbul. It's not known. This was a publishing district in Sultan Ahmet, Istanbul. I found another. I printed there. They didn't know. They couldn't steal it. But I found out that I cannot distribute the book because that time there was 3 distribution houses. They all scared to distribute my books. And then later I came to United States at age 30. Rashad Khalifa was the one sponsored me. God bless him. And then in Massachusetts, we spent 1 year together. And that time I had nothing, basically. I remember when I asked my wife for me, I had $5 in my pocket. Together with Khalifa, we went to her father's home. Her father was, and here it is, I come. Someone who barely speaks English. I have nothing. I have $5. He knows that I'm not. I remember on my way to her father's way. Rashad told me, Edip, get some flour. I didn't even think about flour. I got one of the grocery store, a small pot. I got about 35 cents left. Right now, it is, I'm talking about 1989. Now maybe it would be $15. And then I went there, and my wife once in a while, she brings this one. It was so embarrassing, Edip. You brought that little pot kind of flour. You know, Iranian people, they're like, when they go for weekend party, they take so much big flowers. Here it is. I'm going to ask his daughter, I have a little flower. That's crazy.
Right.
At that time, I have several invention came up. As I said, in military, I saved my military service because of two inventions. It changed my situation in military from dangerous soldier, always under supervision and stuff. I became the most prestigious in the regiment, whatever called military.
So you were in frontline infantry. Huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was. And but that counter, an electronic bullet counter for magazines, that it will give you the number of bullets, exactly how many bullets left in the magazine. That time we have G3, that 20
The
bullets.
Genic?
No, G3 is a kind of gun.
But there's a gun brand from Turkey. It's very popular, the Genic.
No, this is an American gun, and it was opaque. And I said, well, in combat, you don't see how many bullets left. Right. And you may change the magazine while there are still bullets there. You are not using full capacity, or you think there are bullets there, but you don't have it. You are dead. I said there must be something to make it bullet count.
Sounds common sense.
In 1986, and then I said, well, usually in invention, rule is you don't put barriers, rules before you become brainstorming. But I know I put rules. I said, it must be 100% accurate. It must be cheap, very cheap. It must be adaptable to current G3 guns, semi-automatic guns. And then I came up with an idea. I said, that time these watches were new, the digital watches, in 1986. But they were not very expensive, cheaper than the other ones. And then I said, when you put in setting,
put a sensor.
In setting, minute setting, when you push it 1, 2, it counts until 60. If I get extension of these circuits with a wire, like steel wire, it could be also used as a spring, get out. If I put in the beginning of in front of the slot where the end of the bullet comes out, what is called the bullet
muzzle.
There is a kind of cylindric, it comes off. I don't know.
The muzzle, right?
No,
barrel. I think.
You know, bullet one, the head of it is lead, and the other end holds.
Oh, right.
Casing, shell. Shell is metal. I said when metal comes, if I put the watch under it with the 2 extension wire, this steel, and then when hits it, metal will create connection. 1, 2, 3, 4. The number of bullets, the shell will count. And then I did it.
Was it mechanical or was it electronic?
Well, the watch is electronic, but in front of the slot, it will be mechanically touching, correct? Anyway, it worked. And then I created another one, a card that you basically add string and then you put on your head, you tension it in front of you. In 51 centimeter, it stops. That card, I have whole table grid and the distance of the certain objects. And then you can measure the distance of any object because they were teaching us a distance estimate for cannons. Through the cannon, you must know the distance so that you can set the angle correctly. And all these estimates, they were ridiculous, very stupid. Oh, imagine, compare it to football stadium or your finger right and left and open your eyes. But this was very big margin of error. But this one, I made it margin of error about 1.5%. Basically, you put a tank's picture, you move it, the picture of the tank, where is it, you move it, and in between these two things, the next column will give exactly the distance of the tank. Because when it is far closer, it becomes bigger, and well, it's shorter, less. When it becomes the tank come closer to this one,
it becomes bigger number because it is further away. Anyway,
Right.
this was the one, and that was saved my life because it's a long story. And then when I came to United States, I came up with several inventions. One of them is beautiful toy I made, still is beautiful, but I didn't have money resources to. Rashad Khalifa gave me money to fee, not. I just sent it as patent pending,
Oh,
and then I sent it to one of the toy manufacturers, several toy manufacturers. That time there was no internet. I had to go to the library, park the car there, or someone give me ride, and then go through the cards and find a reference book or any book, go to the shelves, bring it, open it, look at another one. It is hours of work. I was able to get the addresses of several toy manufacturers. I sent it to them. The biggest one, Mattel.
Wow.
The head of Mattel wrote to me, we love this, we want to manufacture it. How much do you want? As if this much royalty, but in
Right.
advance, how much advance you want? I had to go to library again to learn this information. What is the market? How much advance for a toy like this? I cannot believe it. I was able to find that information. It was about $10,000 that day.
Mm.
Right now, maybe it'll be 30,000 inflation. And then I asked Rashad Khalifa and others. I said, "What do you think? How much should I ask?" They said 100,000. Well, I said I study market. It's about 10,000. It will be perhaps reject. No, Edip, you don't know. And the other people who have no clue about this toy industry, they said, "No, Edip, you don't know here. America has 100,000." I said, there must be something they know I don't know. I wrote
You submitted it.
I wrote $100,000. The following letter, within few weeks, rejection.
Rejected.
And
yeah.
that blocked me. It would be foot in the door of inventions. I didn't have that chance. I had few others. I couldn't have another invention, but to make a prototype of it, it required $50,000.
You could have just told them a letter saying that was just a rounding error. It's just a decimal error.
Anyway, and then I went to philosophy. I studied philosophy while working part-time, and then went to law school. After philosophy, I studied also graduate level of philosophy. And in fact, I want to do critical and creative thinking at University of Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I took summer classes there, masters, but I dislike it. I found it's not rigorous. It was for teachers. And then I went to law school, University of Arizona. I hated lawyers, judges, governments, everything.
Wow.
But the reason I was led to law school, it was a philosophy class I took, graduate level jurisprudence class. Philosophy.
That ASU that you
No,
went to?
University of Arizona.
Oh, okay.
University of Arizona philosophy department was top 5 that time in the nation. Top 5. I don't know what is now. But it was, I loved jurisprudence. Law is not just imposing on people, just made up laws. There is a reason behind this. Basically, I was introduced the reasoning behind the laws. Therefore,
so did you become a lawyer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And well, the irony of fate, look at this. In law school, where I am in 1997, Lord Justice Rehnquist gave a class in our college.
Wow.
He was originally from Phoenix. He was on Supreme Court for 33 years, and 19 years he was the Chief Justice. He gave a class, and I am in that class, 140 students, my classmate. I am the only person debating with him. The topic of the class I have in my script is landmark cases. Yeah. Right. Then I was the only one debating with him. Imagine, I come from Turkey. I am beaten by the government, the lowest of law, and then in prison I was for about 8 months, terrible torture. And then I go to military, lower than the lowest, dangerous soldiers, no rank, 0 rank, in fact, minus rank. My rank was minus. And I am excommunicated. I come to this country. Here is one of the 3 most powerful person in this country. I am face-to-face debating with him. That is an irony. It's incredible. And in fact, one of the topic I debated with him, I will not talk about it. It was about exceptions in amendment of expression. There are few exceptions. One of them is in theater, you scream fire, you create chaos, panic, you heard people, the other one, fighting words. I rejected that exception. I said fighting words exception is given, how do you say, it encourages people become and violent. Majority gets power on this, because if you have such an exception, people say, I get angry if I end up fighting the minority, then this will become his freedom of expression be limited. Therefore, people will be conditioned to get angry, to fight over words. Anyway, it's long things. Okay. Then after law school, I practiced a few years law, and then I resigned from law firm because they were not ethical.
Oh.
Said bye-bye. Yeah, I remember exactly the case I rejected. I said, this case, our client has no way to win this case. If you go to the court, you will be wasting the client money. He didn't care. He wanted to make money to the court.
Right.
And it was a city, and it was about taxation of a land. City brought the infrastructure to that land, increased everyone's, but a guy objected. They said, no, why you are increasing my land? In fact, my land value diminished because of those infrastructure, because huge tube passed under my land, divided into two pieces. I cannot build on this tube. What's a sewage tube, whatever it is, huge. And then I look at the case, the facts of the case. Yeah, that's right. The guy did not benefit from this infrastructure improvement. And then I said that the city wanted to kind of case to be evaluated. No, he wanted on behalf of the city to fight against this guy who is very justified case. I said, no, I'm leaving. After that, I went to teach. I taught philosophy and logic for 23 years, but never got full-time job because of my, I am like a cactus. I have thorns. And I know why. In fact, one of the cases, let me tell you this one too. I have similar things. Of Texas in Austin, the head of Near Eastern Studies Department, Charles Kurzman, Professor Charles Kurzman.
Naming names.
Yeah, okay, it is real. And then Charles Kurzman, talking about years ago, maybe this guy is now retired or dead. Charles Kurzman, I think he's alive. And then he contacted me. He knows about my writings and articles that time I was publishing in media. And he was following my work. He said, there is a position, I want to hire you. I am the head of the department. I am the head of the hiring committee. Apply for this position in Near Eastern Studies. I said, okay, but I have a lot in Near Eastern Studies. I know 4 languages in the Middle East, Kurdish, Turkish, Arabic, and Persian. I have also a lot of research on Islam and stuff and books. And then, okay, I did. And I applied, but a few weeks later, he called me. He says, I'm sorry, the committee rejected. What happened? He says, well, the first rejection came from Judaics. They saw some of your articles, criticism of Israel, not Jewish people. I racism as evil, whether Jew or Arab, or Kurd. Never I discriminate based on race. But of course, critical of the government. And they didn't like it, therefore they objected to you. And then guess what? I look at the Islamic studies section, which is usually kind of Saudi, Egyptian, Emirates guys. They get funds from there. And then they said they were worse than, they said no. And therefore, I'm sorry, I cannot. Therefore, there were these kind of things like my reformist translation of the Quran, going to be published by Palgrave, Macmillan's top prestigious branch. And they, in fact, announced it. They published in their next coming book. They invited me to New York in their headquarters, and everything was done. A lot of professors, a lot of academics praised my book. Blurbs were ready, everything. The last minute, someone, an anonymous professor, whoever he is, wrote an article, don't publish it. This is like Salman Rushdie, dangerous, scare them, and some distortions, and they stopped it. Therefore, there are this kind of some people, I don't know the name of this guy, I said, who is this? Let me debate, he's wrong. Your criticism, absolutely not justified, but nope, as if the order is from God. And
Wow.
therefore, there are these kind of interferences. I'll tell you some in my life I have seen to block me, to stop me, 100%. And anyway, and then a few years ago, about 8, 9 years ago, I decided to go back to my engineering years, middle school years, get some patents. One of them first beltways.
Right.
We have right now more than a dozen patents. It's right now several $100 million value. Willing it will become $1 billion company. I don't have money. I'm not filthy rich yet, but I have some equity. But I am leaving Beltways. I already left.
Real quick, before we transition the topic, how are Kurds treated in Turkey?
Good question.
Kurds were very mistreated in Turkey. Unfortunately, their culture, they were subjected to very, very strict and sometimes violent assimilation program. Their language, their culture, their even existence were denied.
Wow.
And
And
existence.
you don't even have to be part of the PKK or anything like that.
No, Kurdish language in 1980 Constitution, there is an article, the freedom of expression, prohibited languages.
My
And
goodness.
prohibited languages in Constitution doesn't mention Kurdish, but the only language prohibited in law, the statute, is Kurdish language.
Oh,
Then,
God.
therefore, there was Kurdish song singing Kurdish language penalty. And therefore, because of oppression, I didn't learn my mother tongue as should be. And
Wow.
among the 5 languages, the least I know is the Kurdish language, unfortunately. And later, many were killed, beaten, many executions, some prominent Kurdish writers, authors, politicians. And later, PKK was a result of that came about. And later, they as an excuse to suppress and oppress Kurdish people more. Unfortunately, it's incredible injustice to Kurdish people. But right now is changed. I don't trust it because in the past they did it. Hopefully it will change. Right now it seems there is understanding they have to accept Kurdish language, which they accepted, but still officially is unknown language. In Congress, one of the Kurdish persons said few Kurdish words. He was interrupted by the president of the Congress. The comment is, he's talking in an unknown language. Goodness sake, even they can Kurdish, unknown language. Let's say in Turkish Airlines, in that neighborhood, when they fly, they have 5 languages: Turkish, English, Persian, Arabic, one or other language, but no Kurdish. Goodness sake, Kurdish population 20% there. Your neighbors, all Kurdish, Iraq, Syria, Kurds. Goodness sake, what is this fear of Kurdish?
Yeah, that's it. I feel that it's just such hyperactive response.
Paranoia. The
Paranoia.
very fear creates stupid acts. The very paranoia of Kurdish people, if they speak their language and then they later they to cease from us. Therefore, let them forget their language. Even in history, this fake Turkish history I read, not Turkish, world history. You see even dinosaurs there, the old tribes and the nations that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Pages about from Hittites, Phoenicians, and so many others, Aztecs, but not a single word about Kurdish people. Not a
What
single
about
word.
Sultan Salahuddin
Oh,
Ayyubi?
they even don't tell he's Kurdish. In some
Really?
places they say he's Turkish. Yeah. And this is crazy. This is very paranoia. Make it worse. Now Kurdish people, a lot of Kurdish people want separation because of this. Goodness sake.
Makes sense.
The very paranoia is self-fulfilling, create hostility and division. Anyway, where I was, and then I started patenting. I'm leaving Beltways on my own volition, but meanwhile, there was some political stuff forced me to out. While before that, I made decision to leave for next powerhouse invention I have. It is major innovation in housing, a house that generates 4-5 times more electricity than from wind and sun than it consumes. Again, average home in the United States consumes about 11,000 kilowatt annually. This one generates 4-5 times more only by very design. Very interesting concept. And right now I have teams. I have 2 universities. They are very interested. They want to support. And right now I am raising seed money. First, angel investor. Right now I am talking with some angel investors, but I will raise several million for the prototype. Anyway,
No,
but
let me
yeah,
ask you just one other question, before we topic, because you talked about this, that you got a law degree, so you're ideally poised to settle this issue that we often hear about the accusation on Rashad Khalifa with the minor, where he pleaded guilty to a lesser plea deal. So
no, he didn't
having
believe
a
guilty.
legal,
No. It's a lie.
it's a lie.
It is lie. He didn't plead guilty. He just said, I am not going to respond to this. Let the
Hmm.
court decide. No case. The reason is they want to humiliate him with this lie. It was an insult,
Hmm.
and his wife and stuff. Therefore, he says, no, it is no thing. And then there is no evidence, nothing. Therefore, it is no case. Not a
No, but
single
you
punishment.
still have to like respond to a case, right? You
No,
still
he
have to say
responded.
not
He said,
guilty.
no, he that they wanted to put him to the court. And this woman, they paid the background is this happened after his first with the Islamic center in Tucson, the
Hmm.
mosque there. And
Right.
he was part of that. He was, in fact, part of ISNA, American student, Muslim
Really?
students. Yeah, he was the of that.
Oh,
You look at some magazines published with the first leader Sunni Muslims here. He is the publisher of the book. All the
wow.
names you see, big names, and he is one of them. And he was the founder of that. And then he starts suspecting hadith and become critical of hadith. In
Mm.
one of his debates with others in that congregation, he rejects regime, the
Mm.
stoning to death.
Stunning, right.
And then they find this, they give him money, whatever, they say make up this lie that she touched me. Goodness sake, I spent 1 year with this guy, never seen any closeness, anything to these kind of things. Big
So
lie.
you were there when this case took place?
No, before me is there, but I
Mm.
spent time with him and absolutely is lie. And the thing was that when he rejected this one, they said, let's accuse him because he most likely he's himself is an adulterer and stuff. And in the they made up this. And
Mm.
this woman does, but absolutely a lie. And but they want him to pull to the court so that in the court they do this how do you say
Discovery.
humiliation.
Oh,
Just face it as a humiliation. He says, no, I'm not going to respond to the court, and the case is dismissed. The case is dismissed. Not a fee, not a single day punishment, nothing. If he was guilty, he cannot be done. This is a criminal case, goodness sake.
mm.
Look at the case.
Okay.
It is a big lie against him. He was a very decent guy, goodness sake. One of the most decent, honest person I have seen, a brave person. They
Hmm.
kill, but the same similar things they did to Muhammad and his wives. Goodness sake, while they were alive, the mushriks or munafiqs, they accused them of adultery too. Don't you see in the Quran?
Yeah, the ifk. Talking about the,
Another example of it. They couldn't beat him in arguments, in debates, in evidence, Quranic, and
Mm.
therefore they found I don't know about that woman, what was it, but they paid her to make such an accusation. The accusation touched my chest. That's
Oh,
it.
I see.
Yeah.
So then, and I was thinking is that it's how hard is for him to just say not guilty, I didn't do it, and then go on the record for that. The fact that
Well,
he's not even
well,
responding, the optics don't look good.
well, if he said, listen, in the court, legally, procedurally, you have two options. You say not guilty, you have to go to the court, you have to go to all these humiliation. When you say this one, you leave to the court. You say you decide, and the court decides dismiss the case.
Yeah, I think it's
It
you
is
are going
No
procedural.
contest?
There is no
Like a
other
no
avenue.
contest?
No
Like a
contest.
no contest. Okay.
Contest. But contest doesn't mean acknowledging the guilt.
Right.
It means I am not, you do it. I basically let the court make decision, and therefore there was no case.
That could have easily defaulted in the girl's favor. That could have defaulted in the girl's
No,
favor.
he knew there was nothing, no evidence, just statement that someone touched my boobs.
Right. So like did he or in
Yeah,
his,
most likely he got legal advice, and
Mm.
basically he wanted to keep his and family these court shenanigans. They really wanted to humiliate him with these lies. I myself, if someone accuse me, I will try kind of avoid that to face. I may go, but it is another way of come on, you decide. There's no evidence. I know it. Go ahead, decision. I know that there will not be any charge against me, and there was no charge.
I see. Okay. So, back to the topic. When you had said initially that Iman means trust, Islam means peacemaking, you qualified that there is a difference in the relationship between the word Islam when it applies to man and God, and being submission when it applies to man and society, right? I mean,
No,
that's
submission to God, but to
right.
society is
Peacemaking,
peacemaking. Yeah.
right,
With God, you make peacemaking, but only submission. With
right,
people, when you peacemake, you become responsibility dean. You
right.
start having mutual responsibilities to each other. When you start peace, it is you need to be just towards them. You need to have certain duty towards society and participate in congregation, in meetings. Salat means social, psychological, political solidarity, Salat al Jumu'ah.
Mm,
And when you, as Mumin, you participate, you do that time, remember God, and
mm.
also you deal with the community that time, Salat
Okay.
al Jumu'ah.
So, are there other words that can substitute for these types of words like Iman, Deen, or other fundamental words, where, or is it hard set that these are the only meanings to these words?
That's it.
Um,
Salam is Salim, the same root of the things always is about peace.
mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is peacemaking. You cannot say Islam in Arabic and keep it as if it is a proper name. It's not proper name. According to Quran, Jesus and his friends, they were all Muslims, and
Mm,
Abraham was Muslim. وَهُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. He is the one. God is kind of named us as a peacemaker. Therefore, if you pay attention, Islam peacemaking must be the dominant system in the world. We have to fight for it against aggressors, against warmongers, to stop the wars, to have peace on earth. But there is
yeah.
no compulsion within Islam. Within Islam. Peacemaking, there's no compulsion. Different religions, different groups, they can have their separate jurisdiction. Therefore, it is a federal system. Muhammad established, in today's terminology, a federal, secular, social democracy in today's terminology, or even I can call it socialist democracy, because
I see.
the way they shared, the way their distribution of wealth, the way there was certain how this suspicion of monopoly of money and rich that they could control, the money should be monopoly in the hand of few. Therefore, there is respect for individual gain and certain freedom of in economy that person will gain, but not at the expense of the society, not become a very dominant, also politically, economically dominant force society. There is a balance, beautiful balance to create between individual, but right now, in the individual right and the society here, is absolutely distorted right now. Filthy billionaires and become trillionaires, and while majority of people suffer because
Hmm.
there is a huge corrupt system, a rigged system. Just give you one example out of maybe hundreds of examples. Just one example: how they siphon money from the poor people. Legally, they steal money.
Right.
Just one item is overdraft.
Oh,
Overdraft fee.
overdraft fees.
Banks, many years ago, about 10 years ago, I checked three banks: Wells Fargo, Chase, and Bank of America. These three
Right.
banks, in just 1 year, that time, 1 year, they made $7 billion from
And
just
overdraft fees.
overdraft fee.
Unbelievable.
They were charging $35 per overdraft, and they do it, design it in a way that,
Right.
let's say you have 5 payments. One of the big payment limit, the other small payments. You
Right.
purchase bread, you got a drink, you pay the
Yeah.
parking lot, and then they first charge you
Take
the
out the
big
big
one,
one. Yeah.
big one, and
And
down
have a
below.
bunch of little overdraft
And
fees.
then they charge you 4 times. It happened to me. They charge you 4 times 35. And guess
Right.
what? When your money comes to your bank account, they get the money they gave to you, correct, in 1 or
Yeah.
2 weeks, maximum in 2 weeks. You borrow, basically, they lend you this money, little money, and they charge you tens of thousands %
That's
of
right.
interest. It is
Yeah.
usury to the
It's
power of
criminal. It's criminal.
it's criminal, but they
Yeah.
legalize it through the political power. They bribe the politicians, they control politics, and this became legal. This should be illegal, and many like this.
Yeah.
They siphon money from the people, working people who can afford it. To those who are billionaires, they don't need really more money.
Yeah. So just remember, guys, you have to elect to get the overdraft. You know, if money, just reject the check.
Yes,
That's it.
yes,
Let it
yes.
bounce.
I didn't know that before there was even that option. For a
Yeah.
long time when I was student and stuff, I suffered with, they didn't have much income. My gosh, overdraft. They would charge a lot.
Right. What about
See,
insurance?
insurance is also, I
Another
think,
scam.
a lot of, yeah.
So
This is a long story. We can discuss
yeah,
on the
yeah.
economy stuff later, God willing.
So how do you feel that the direction of the submitters has gone since Rashad Khalifa's passing away?
It was as I expected. I realized this in last week of Rashad Khalifa. Before
Really?
his death,
That far back?
yeah. They tried to idolize him while he was alive. The last Friday, I debated with Rashad Khalifa, and Rashad Khalifa kind of got confused, corrected himself, and he apologized. He repented to God. But
Wow.
that was incredible experience we had, and I saw a hypocrite. He gave the khutbah. It was, what was his last name was Mufidi, and he came from outside. Rashad Khalifa would allow people, guests, to give khutbah, and also I was there. I gave many khutbahs. He was not kind of monopoly or IS person. He was one of the very honest, humble person. And then this guy in khutbah, he said it was the last khutbah that Rashad Khalifa participated. A few days later, he was killed. And he said, not call him Rashad by his first name, we should call him Rasulullah, kind of. And then when he should stand up in front of him. These are all things that Rashad Khalifa rejected and we were rejecting. And he said this one. And then after khutbah, people objected, like Masood, what's Sabahi, and including me. And Rashad says, don't listen to him. Whatever you called me, exactly, continue that way. But later that evening, we had a debate. In that debate, I was against Rashad Khalifa because he made a statement false, wrong statement. He's different, but English was wrong. He was saying that God cannot come to this world, to this earth, because this earth cannot withstand God's power, God's presence, and this universe. And then I said, you cannot use cannot for God. And it just doesn't make sense. He's able to do, but God doesn't want, God doesn't, this is wrong in English. We had this debate.
Can you say that God can lie?
That's a question. By the very ontological, by the very nature of God, God will not lie. I don't want to say cannot. It is for human being. It is about ability to do something. Then you say, well, God will never lie. It is the right statement is that. But cannot lie means even if he wants lie, cannot lie. It doesn't make sense.
Isn't that just playing with semantics? I mean, if the question was God lie, yes or no, then would you answer yes, he can?
No, I think the question is wrong because the word can is used for human beings with limited, it implies a limited capacity. And therefore, when in this context, when the question is wrong, the answer will be wrong. I will not respond this question. For example,
can God create the definition itself?
Can God create another? Well, can create. Well, he cannot create if I say it is wrong because I say God is incapable of doing something. But the question is contradictory because a God means uncreated. Therefore, God creating a God, that will not
Right.
be a God. That will be
So yeah,
created.
so
Creation.
definitionally, like
Yeah,
intrinsically, that would not
yeah,
be.
yeah. There are these questions problematic because of the very meaning of the question. There are contradiction, internal contradiction in the. You should not answer this question. I'm a philosopher, very careful about this. I know about this things. Therefore, I thought that the word can't should not be used for God. Will
Okay.
never lie. God will not come to the earth because it is the earth will not do how to say handle God because the earth is filled with deficiency, viruses, Satan, evil, lies, choices, and
Right.
stuff. Anyway,
Can I share a tiny reflection on what you just now said about the fact that if you imagine God to be a substance made of matter, mass, having dimensions, occupying space, that means then that is what enters the universe, right? So if, for example, God created everything, shape, form, size, direction, location, mass, then he couldn't be that which he created himself. So the very
because
definition,
yeah,
like it
it
wouldn't
is.
like
That's
only
true.
imagines entering or exiting the universe or entering anything if it has those physical qualifiers. And so
Yeah,
those are all creations, therefore you can
yeah.
say God doesn't have that
Yeah,
attribute.
we don't have any of idea of God's person. Only we know about attributes of God and the projection of those
Right,
attributes in our lives. That's
right.
it. And because when we think about even in this world certain things, it is beyond even our comprehension. Certain things still
Mhm.
we have no idea many things about singularity, about let's say Big Bang, black, and
Even how the
about
brain works.
yeah, even how what is consciousness, about what is space, what is time, even time.
Mhm.
Yes, we are in time, but still the nature of time, we have problem to comprehend it. About
Gravity,
multi-dimensional universe, goodness sake.
right?
Yeah, imagine a germ, though we are in the same universe, made of the same material, a germ under the microscope for a while. The first time I watched a germ under the microscope, I couldn't remove my eyes from the microscope for about half an hour. My
Yeah,
gosh, when I see these little creatures and they have their own community, they are attacking to some little kind of uh, whatever food, and they are each other with the extensions and stuff. I look at them, my gosh, they have no idea about me watching them. I can
mm,
kill them with drop of like hydrogen peroxide, alcohol. They will have no clue. They have no clue about this laboratory, this very microscope. They are under it, about the cars, about the cities, about the
right.
universe. It is beyond their imagination. Imagine our case about God. We try to
Mm.
conceive God is even much bigger than that.
It's far more
Therefore,
than that.
it is very arrogance and ignorance to try to kind of consider God like a majority of people. Unfortunately, they ask questions as if he's a human being, he's a
Mm.
king, and that kind
So
of thing.
you knew Rashad Khalifa as a person who can make mistakes, and he did make mistakes. And when
Of
he
course, and then
realized,
later,
he
and
repented.
yeah, he repented in debate over that. It was recorded.
Mm.
I was against him, and some people sided with me. Some people sided with him in masjid, about 50 people there, and there were some people in middle state. And Bahruz Mufidi, the guy who is hypocrite, who is making that khutbah, inviting people not to call him with that name, to glorify him. And
Mm.
he, over that, in that debate, he made a very stupid statement.
Mm.
I don't know where I didn't listen to that since then, but in audio they are sharing. Sometimes to against me, here is deep against Rashad Khalifa. And then in one case, when I asked a question, and then he came, the question came, what created hydrogen? And then his hydrogen was not created by God. And therefore that was an interesting thing. But that debate came into that.
Mm.
But later, Rashad Khalifa, I basically that debate got very upset with Rashad Khalifa, insisting on grammatically wrong statement. God cannot
Mm.
do this. And then I didn't show up in masjid. Every day we were spending time in masjid. He was working in his office on his translation of the Quran and articles, writing for Submitter's Perspective, Muslim Perspective. And I was in other room. I was working on Turkish translation of the Quran. And we were also, every day we were discussing on our translations. We would exchange. He would give me his print, new revision, and we discuss. And then I didn't go. He called me. He didn't call, but Lisa Spray called me. Says, Edip, you come here. Rashad wants to see you. Very kind of unwillingly. It was a kind of weekend after Friday or Sunday. And then he came to me. He says, I made a mistake. I repent to God. Let's repent together to God, he said. And then I was happy. Finally, he realized his error. But no one except Lisa was witnessed that. And then after that, 2-3 days later, before the next Friday, he was killed. But one night of Sunday, I believe, at masjid until prayer, we prayed together. We would just leave in masjid. We were only 2 of us were there. 2 police officers came to masjid. This is about 3-4 days before he was killed. And then they said, we have some information that in Salt Lake City, there is a group, there is a terrorist organization, a gang, they want to kill you. They discovered some map of the masjid, some design of the masjid and certain things interesting. And they say, be careful. And then after them, Rashad told me, said, please don't tell anyone in the masjid because Satan wants to scare people. People will get scared. And then after later I learned he asked a gun from Mahmoud Edip, a Somalian friend. He get a gun from him. But when he enters early morning he was going to masjid before everyone down for the dawn prayer. And then he in masjid, and over there they are hiding murderers, and they stab him to death. And then, that was the thing, interesting experience. But that the group that were against me, the group got upper hand. Until then, I was kind of looked upon as a leader, Rashad Khalifa. But that was debate, kind of when I confronted Rashad, we were the group. After Rashad's assassination, they got kind of pivot. They pivoted to leadership. Though Abdullah Eric, he was a very nice guy, but he was very weak. He was forced and manipulated by this gang. There was a gang of people, they wanted to idolize Rashad. And then soon after Rashad, they made up a lie in the name of Rashad Khalifa. They created a hadith. They said, Rashad said in May 19, this is 1990, there will be a meteor hit Saudi Arabia, will destroy Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
And then, of course, I was the one spending most time with Rashad Khalifa every day from morning until night.
Right.
And then discussing every issue with him. I said, you are lying. If there was such a thing, I would know. Rashad would be discussing first with me.
Yeah.
I never said that thing. Do you have any proof? No, you heard it. It's big lie, I said. You are a liar. And then, but several people sided with him. A lot.
Really?
I just, listen, I experienced.
So they testified, like they also heard it?
No, they believed in him because they making up numbers, numerical manipulation, putting numbers together randomly, arbitrarily. Showed me this one. Oh my gosh. They start pressuring Abdullah. Abdullah, he was also closest to Rashad Khalifa at that time. He was a very calm person, nice person. He's an engineer. And he didn't believe that, but they so much pressured him. He had to publish their nonsense. And these people went to media. They promoted this lie. And and several friends of mine who also knew this lie, they opposed. But again, because of my debate with Rashad Khalifa, and they excluded me, they put me in a very kind of antagonistic to that. Therefore, I'm against. And I said, this is a big lie. This is a conspiracy against Rashad Khalifa to defame him. And these are hypocrites, I said. Behruz Mufidi and a few others. And guess what? Of course, this didn't happen. And then when the following night, this guy came from Tucson, Arizona. He moved from his home, and few others also. but unbelievable, these people, what they did. And then after that, they started idolizing Rashad. And right now, there's a group of people, they absolutely like Sunnis. They talk all about Rashad and his statements, his writings, articles, his words, everything is besides the Quran,
Appendices.
is a source.
Yeah.
They consider as a source. In fact, always said Quran, nothing but the Quran.
Really?
Quran, all Quran, nothing but the Quran, all the time.
So
In
did
fact,
Rashad ever express to you that he has concerns that the hadith of Muhammad was going to get replaced by the hadith of
oh
Rashad?
yes, he
Really?
said to people, he says it will happen exactly the same. In fact, he says they will worship me after me. Therefore, how do you say, burn my body and make it powder and throw it to the restroom. He was saying this. Put the rest, how do you say, toilet, so that they go to the
Flush
toilet
it down.
Yeah, flush it down. And but he knew it. And but what
It's
it
amazing.
look at me in appendix 19. It's about hadith and sunnah, why we reject hadith sunnah. Interestingly, it is in appendix 19. Say the reason we reject hadith sunnah not because they are not authentic, because they are all false. There could be, but
The
because
very
God
concept
is
of
in,
hadith is false. The
yeah,
very concept is wrong.
yeah, because it contradicts. God is only of system message. Only God. Messenger only delivered God's
Right.
word, the Quran. Therefore, he was solo Quran, whole Quran, nothing but Quran. But now says no, Quran plus appendices, plus videos, plus this. Unbelievable. And I
Wow.
witnessed this in an early age. I predicted this. These people, Rashad's brother and sister, they were good
Yeah.
people. Rashad's brother was a surgeon, brain surgeon, Atif Khalifa, and sisters. At one point at 1996-7, when I was in law school, I started seeing people referring to Rashad and Hadith while Quranic studies. And there were some errors in the translation. Later, I discovered that time. But I discovered this mistranslation. When I bring this issue, they would get upset. Well, goodness sake, Rashad revised his translation 3 times. Goodness sake, never claimed this from God. We're
Right.
debating with him. Sometimes
Really? So he didn't make that claim that this is from God.
Never. But he said that this authorized God, as God authorized a mu'min. I am a mu'min, and my understanding is not perfect, but is close, is not major opposition to the is authorized by Quran, by God. It means that he never said, oh, this verbatim, this translation is God. No.
Right.
But also he believed everything is done by God. Like chapter 8, 30, my errors God allowed this to have, but it is error. He would correct it, but never defend the error. And there might be a reason for that. The reason is what? Those who want to reject the messenger, finding the error in messenger because they expect a divine, a God, and cannot make error, they reject the messengership because of the error. And some people, hypocrites, since they glorify him as a God, defend the error. One use an excuse, use an error as an messenger. The other uses to idolize the messenger by defending the error. 2 different things. And this, he knew it. He said it many times. But here it is right now. I experience a micro level the beginning of Muhammad and his companions, what happened.
Wow.
I saw
A
Umar.
repeat.
I was like Umar bin Khattab in that story, honestly.
Hasbuna kitab Allah.
This guy was like Abu Huraira. Honestly, I see
Wow.
characters. Abdullah was like Osman. He was a weak person. They were forcing him this way. He didn't believe them, but he was basically weak. I saw the characters, the motivation, the progress of lies and idol worship. Right now is complete sunnah of Rashad Khalifa.
2.0. Sunni 2.0 now.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. They say God and Rashad,
Wow.
goodness sake. And it's telling you appendix 19. The very appendix 19 says, no, they say hadith because it is not, we don't know for sure Muhammad said. But this one we know for sure Rashad said. Well, goodness sake, look at appendix 19. That's not the reason we reject. Real reason we reject hadith, because God is enough, Quran is enough. Anyway,
Wow.
but this is another shows how
So,
Satan dupe people.
right. So brother Edip, would you then say that the door to ijtihad is still wide open, that we can still interpret the Quran and
Of
we can
course, it
still
is
find,
absolutely until the end of the world.
right?
First of all, you must understand according to your own brain. I must
Right.
understand you never follow each other blindly.
Mhm.
God says, if you don't know, ask those who know. But it
Right.
is very interesting. This is misinterpreted, misunderstood.
Mhm.
There are no people who says person who knows. God says knows, born with written on their
That's
forehead.
right. Ulama.
Or the person who knows the longest beard. There's no such a rule. Or the biggest turban. Or
Right.
many people popular around that person. Well, that time Pope would be the person who knows everything, correct?
Right.
But it is not that. Ask those who know. Knowledge is objective. I think that you might know certain indicators you might know the subject. I come ask you, you give me knowledge, which is testable, falsifiable fact on basic with provable things, with proof. And then I say, okay, this is, or you give me something, I see speculation or false. I said, no, I go to another person to know. Therefore, it is a matter of knowledge is the one you are seeking. And the Quran says, do not follow anything blindly and your eye. Therefore, ultimately, you are the one decision making what is knowledge. But hearing other people, if you are honest person, you may learn something, you may verify, but you need to verify that information. Never get from someone without verification, especially about God. A claim about God is the biggest claim. It needs 100% kind of verification. And you are the one responsible for yourself. In the day of judgment, you cannot say, well, Edip is a knowledgeable person. I followed him. I didn't question. And no, the Quran says this is wrong. This is, you cannot. And ekabirana and sadatana. You are God one-to-one. God will question you according to the capacity, will not question you, will not burden you beyond your capacity. With honesty, qalbin salim, if you search the truth, even if you find false, but you did your best, and tomorrow you have a chance to learn the truth, correct? Because you are open, you are searching for truth. But even you didn't, God will forgive you. But if you say, because someone said he's a great guy, he knows everything, I follow blindly, he said 2 times 2 is 4, therefore is 4. That's
Right.
wrong.
That's
Though
wrong.
you say the truth, but the reason you are saying the truth because you idolize someone. You know, if someone comes to me say, I added apples to each other, 2 apples plus 2 apples gave me 3 apples.
Right.
I did it and I myself. And
Yeah.
the other person, well, someone says 2 apple plus 2 apple equals 4. And another person says it equals 5. Another person equals 3. And all of them happy, all of them truth. You know, they say. And then
Right.
you come up, let's say, or you said just one of them. It is because someone said 2 times 2 equal 4.
Right.
Now, which one is closer to the truth? The first
Right.
one. Because the first one may make a mistake, an error on the subject, but he's using his capacity, his mind, he's verifying, trying, but he was not able, his knowledge or his time was not sufficient to find the truth. But he has the opportunity to learn the truth when you show that it was wrong. But the other person, if he comes up, that great guy Ibn Falan, Abu Falan said 2 times 2 is 5, you will never be able to prove him that is wrong. Therefore, they may come up with some truth, but sometimes with major falsehood, very clear falsehood, but because of authorities, اتخذوا أحبابا.
That's right. They've taken them as lords.
Yeah, therefore,
besides
don't
Allah.
follow blindly. Seek yourself, and then therefore, understanding of the Quran, you and you, each of us, trust me to the truth much better. When we discuss, since we don't have above us someone we idolize, we are not the slave of that. We are seeking the truth with our mind, with reason. And when we discuss, I see, you are right, I was wrong. I will now have no problem to accept my wrong. And then, but if you are in a sect, you are of that sect. You are muqallid. But even a mu'mins, if we differ on ideas, our differences is not based on fanatic group thinking, identification with a particular partisanship with group. We are free people. We can correct ourselves. We can learn from each other. We can improve our knowledge. Our differences will not be a measure of hostility or stubborn defense of falsehood. But sectarianism, therefore the Quran says, do not be divided into sects, ولا إن الذين فرقوا دينهم, those who, because think takes away your freedom, takes away your ability to see the truth or acknowledge the truth. That is obstacle between you and the truth, al-haq, which is attribute of God.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is the original introduction that I started with today about how Allah reveals the scripture and guidance, and people take it up, repackage it, dress it up in something else, and they remove all the benefits from it, and they put in all the preservatives and chemicals, and they make it look nice and advertise it. Now this is the new product.
Beautiful. Group thinking is dangerous. Studies shows people who are in group, they particular member of a party or religious group stuff or any even football group, their IQ level go down. Those common denominators start dominating. Therefore, we should be individual all the time as just one, because God says you will be individually facing God. But true. As individual, when we come together, independent thinkers, but we are uniting on some common truth, common cause, that is a quality of group. Is each individual is the best in their maximum. They are always improving. The quality of that group is beyond that your all other groups. All other groups, they basically synchronize, and they certain dogmas they create and falsehood, it degenerates. And therefore the group of mu'mins is very quality, high quality monotheism.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you give a few examples of conversations that you've had with Rashad Khalifa,
If
where
you want,
he's trying, like specifically, I mean, to elevate the level, and these people keep on trying to reduce it back to groupthink, back to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. They're trying to reduce it back to groupthink and dogma and cultist behavior. Like, are there examples from your experience with Rashad where he's tried to elevate the person's thinking, and then people just want to keep going back to the lower level?
If you want, we can discuss this one later. And I need to a little bit go. My wife is here.
No problem.
She's patiently waiting for me. And I would like to another time. It took
Absolutely.
a little bit longer.
Thank you so much for thank you for coming on the show. And I'd like to Brother Laith for introducing me to you. And inshallah, some other time we can have you back on. If you have any last words, please share with us, and then we can stop that.
I would like also to invite people into inventions, innovations. And I think this aspect, when we say Quran alone, it may itself be in the context, what we mean, it is true. But it is God's ayah alone, and therefore not Quran is of course is a book, but God's signs, not only in the nature. The Quran always refers us to also the book and the ayah in the book, the ayah in the nature, and they are supporting each other. Therefore, we need to kind of increase our knowledge of the ayahs, God's ayah in the nature. And innovation is learning that book of nature. And it is God rewards you with innovation, with technology. And therefore, this aspect, I really highly encourage mu'mins, those who trust God, who Quran, we must be also leaders. This innovation also to support justice and liberty in the world and peace. And therefore, right now, with Powerhouse, I put several. I'm talking with investors, when with also strategic partners, construction companies in different countries. Right now, we have talks going on. There are very positive responses. One of the rules is you will not be corrupt, involving corruptions, and you will not be warmongers or fanatics. You must be peacemakers and promote peace on earth. And therefore, this must be our goal: use innovation technology to promote good life and betterment of life on earth and others, justice system, distribution of wealth, and also peace. I think peace is the major issue, and we become just observing warmongers are very active in this world, shedding blood, destroying, corrupting, and therefore we need to stand. We need to be brave for peace. Therefore, powerhouse is. I want you to be, if you are an engineer, because it involves mechanical engineering, civil engineering, architecture, and electrical engineering. And also, we are looking for representatives in almost every country that will represent the powerhouse. We license this technology to some construction companies who will follow the rules. And inshallah, it will be a major company, not only in innovation, but also in betterment of the world and respect to
Inshallah.
environment, God's environment, ecology, and also having a better world in terms of distribution of wealth. When you see
Yeah, inshallah.
millions of struggling for food, while few people have billions and trillions of dollars working, this is absolutely unjust, injustice. We cannot allow this, especially when they see do a lot of corruption, creating wars. We cannot allow this happen, inshallah.
That's true. What a beautiful message. Thank you, Edip Bey, for sharing your
Okay,
experience and wisdom with us today. Gulay gulay.
peace. God bless you.
Inshallah. So, Abdullah, what did you think?
Have to end the stream first. Oh wait, we're not having
Oh,
that discussion. I thought we were ending the stream. My bad.
oh
All right.
no.
Yeah, I think it was a great. Actually, stayed around the stream though, so we can have a talk with him afterwards, catch up on some
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I think it's like you remember before. It insanely interests me to hear this kind of history from a person who lived it rather than just from history books. That's
Yeah.
always, in my opinion, more interesting. I think that a lot of what he's saying, I would very much agree with. I'd say he's a pretty good guest to have on the show.
Brought back a lot of memories for me from Turkey. So I'm pleased to announce that our matchmaking website is live. It's up and running. It's on production, and it's there for you to use for free. At least for the time being, we're still having discussions about having a paywall or not. Even if we do, we might put it up for like $10 lifetime membership for the men, or $2 for women, or we're discussing that a month, something like that, something nominal to kind of go towards boosting the Discord server, or go marketing the site so more people can join and you can have a bigger pool of people to select from. We've built in lots of safety protocols within the site. Inshallah, we'll show a demo at another day. You can always reach us on our cell. Abdullah, put up your cell on the back.
Yeah.
And there's even reporting mechanism on that. So you click on the chat bot, you can log errors. So I encourage all of you, take advantage of the platform, and inshallah, let us know if we can be of any service. Salamun alaikum. We'll see you next time, inshallah.